Time for Clarion Connection with Ron Wilshire. I had to make some special provisions for today. I had to get permission to bring an animal into the studios.
That's right. We're welcoming back to Clarion Connection Gus, the second most famous groundhog in Pennsylvania. And before, when he was on Clarion Connection, it was via telephone connection. And he's in the studio, folks. Gus, the second most famous groundhog in Pennsylvania. As you may remember, Gus at one time was hugely popular in Pennsylvania, series of television ads promoting the Pennsylvania lottery, and then he got let go. And we talked to him after he was let go from his job and wanted to bring him back, see how things are going. Welcome to the show, Gus.
Thank you, Ron. Very pleased to be here. I do resent the fact that you had to get special permission to have me in the studio, because as a English-speaking groundhog, I feel I'm above the animal kingdom.
Well, some people, I guess it's open to debate, you know.
Well, I have worked hard. I've worked hard to become an educated groundhog, and I feel I have paid my dues. And I do not like the reference to being a mere animal.
Do you think there's much discrimination against rodents?
Oh my. You know, for a long time, I was the spokes rodent for the lottery. And since I have been displaced from my position of fame as this spokes rodent, I've learned that when you aren't out there in front of the public, there is definitely discrimination. I am almost invisible. I'm almost anonymous.
Kind of thing that makes you want to go underground.
Well, you know, I think you're trying to make a humorous pun there, Ron, but I'll tell you what, I don't appreciate that because I've outgrown the living in the ground syndrome. I found greater digs other places.
Well, I can dig that. You mentioned that you were an educated groundhog. Where did you receive your schooling?
Oh, yes. Well, you know, my family, I come from a long line of educated groundhogs. In fact, some of my relatives, they were the stars at the Punxsutawney show, where they went down there and they pretended to see their shadow. And we were all educated at the branch campus in Punxsutawney of IUP. Now, we were a little bit concerned about going to school down there because, as you know, they have a culinary class there too, so we were a little bit concerned that we might make the wrong turn and go into the wrong building. But I'd like to report we did not. We got our education, and most of my family are English-speaking groundhogs.
What did you major in at IUP? Now, your cousin Phil, obviously, straight towards the weather forecasting, although some people would debate whether he really learned that much.
Well, you know, some people call us whistle pigs. Well, I had to change my attitude. When I went to IUP, I took English as a second language because my whistling was my first language, and that's what I took, and they welcomed me. I was concerned a few times when they wanted to hook electrodes to me to see how I was actually progressing, but I learned quite a bit at my institution.
Well, that's great. What do you think about Phil's abilities to forecast weather? A lot of people are concerned after this last year.
Ron, I hate to break your heart, but it's all a game. My educated relatives, they smile, and they smile at the camera, and then they hustle back into their den. It's all a game, and I think that it's a big scam that they have pushed on. But now, it's a financial boom to the area of Punxsutawney. So we have to continue, if we are going to be paid, we have to continue to keep this myth alive.
Does Phil receive pretty good pay?
Well, he does not receive the payment that I received when I was famous as the lottery
You were working for
spokesperson.
the state then.
Yes, I was a state employee. Now, I know a lot of people think badly of state employees. They think that I had a pension and that I had health care. I did not. Because I was a rodent, I had to fight for everything I got. Now, Phil, unfortunately, he was paid in carrots. And the better he performed, the more carrots he received. But unfortunately, after he sees his shadow and scurries into the den, he loses his notoriety. He is not in the forefront like I. I was in the forefront for many years. In fact, my picture was on the lottery tickets, as you know. I was fame and fortune.
Now, Phil could just walk around the public, and they wouldn't suspect it was him. But you, on the other hand,
Oh, I was famous, my pretty face, my shapely body, my great intelligence. I have an honest face, and one that people could trust when they invest their dollars in the lottery. But no, I no longer have this great job representing Pennsylvania to the world in their lottery.
did you ever play the lottery much?
Oh, no, Ron. I know how that works. As a rodent, I don't get any of the benefits that the senior citizens get. So I cannot really, in good conscience, play the lottery since I can't receive any of the benefits in my older years.
Well, it must have been kind of traumatic losing that kind of job, and I imagine the job prospects for rodents isn't that good.
Ron, it was very sad. When the governor's agent came and talked to me and told me that I was going to be replaced, I felt very sad. My agent informed me that they wanted something more royal when they were planning to sell the lottery to Great Britain. And a cute little groundhog that spoke English just didn't make it in Britain. Besides, I knew I could never learn to speak with a British accent.
Well, some people would say, well, if you want to, keep your job, but you would be going from a state employee to, I guess, a private employee.
Well, I never could figure this out. I knew I worked for the state, and I was fairly well compensated. But, I still think I was a private contractor because they did not cover my health insurance.
Well, now, you probably weren't management, so were you represented by a union?
That is a real problem in the animal kingdom. And I would like you to know, and maybe with the fact that you have this bully pulpit with your microphone, you can help the animal world. There is no union representation. They refuse to negotiate because there's so few of us can speak English. So that's our real problem. We have no negotiating powers as spokesrodents.
I can understand that. You're probably the only talking rodent I know. Of course, there was Mr. Ed years ago. But.
Well, he was the forerunner of actors who could speak. He was very good, and he sort of laid the groundwork for the rest of us. But, if you would travel around the Punxsutawney campus of IUP, you would run into some of my relatives who are learning the English language right now.
So you're kind of an idol to them, and they're going back for education?
I am certainly that. They used to actually buy lottery tickets just to see my face.
Well, that would be good. They probably just wanted to scratch at it.
They wanted to scratch at it. They liked the scratch out. But you know what? Many times they could not reach up to the counter to hand their ticket and get a payoff. It just didn't make sense for them.
Now, did they get paid in cash or carrots?
Well, it depended where they were. In Punxsutawney, it's not a good place for groundhogs that way. They don't pay in cash. They pay in carrots down there because that's what they're used to.
Well, that's probably what Punxsutawney would be known for. Now, I noticed they have a weather museum or a weather center down there. Are any of your cousins employed there, or is it just a once-a-year thing?
You know what? That's a once-a-year deal. So I tried to tell them, they try to branch out. They cannot just be having this one acting job per year. And so what we are thinking about doing is starting an acting school for ground rodents. Because, you know, there's more opportunity out there if we can only seek them.
Well, and there might be an opportunity. A lot of the well-known actors like Tom Cruise are really short.
This is true. But unfortunately for us, the lifts that we would need would much greater exceed the lifting shoes that Tom Cruise uses. So it would look a little strange.
It would look a little strange. What other kind of acting jobs can groundhogs get?
Well, you know, during the time of Easter, we could dress up like Easter bunnies because we're approximately the same size. We would just do a little bit of alteration with our ears, but we can hop. We can hop with the best of them. And so that's an area where we could really do a lot of work because you think about this. Speaking animals are very rare, and we could work in all the malls of America. So the jobs are out there for us.
I think I've seen some of those people at the malls.
Well, yes, we are doing some trial.
Busy days at Walmart.
Yes, we are doing some trial work. We are doing some work to try to see if we can get some inroads into these areas of commerce.
Well, we've talked about your glory years when you were all over TV, billboards, tickets, and everything. When they decided to let you go, I believe they thought that they could make more money without you, and that seems not to have happened.
Well, you know, our governor, when he makes a mistake, like getting rid of me, he's a very proud man, very stubborn, and he won't back down, full speed ahead. You know, he just will not bring me back, even though there's a groundswell of encouragement, and letters have been written to him, but he refuses to acknowledge them. My major constituency of groundhogs, you know, Ron, they aren't citizens, and they don't have the right to vote. So the governor's not going to do anything to bring me back because no one really is out there pushing for me.
Is there any truth to the rumor that Democrats made an attempt to register the groundhogs for the vote?
Yes, this was true. I was contacted, but the problem was my family was the only real educated groundhogs, and that was probably only mounted to maybe 50 to 100 votes. And so they decided maybe it would cause too much difficulty because, as you know, Ron, we are too short to use the newfangled machines. So we just cannot, we could not do that. We told the Democrats that we would wait a little longer until we had a greater constituency.
So the fears and the rumors about rodent manipulation of the vote are unfounded?
They are unfounded. We did not vote. We were, what we did, we did hang around some of the voting areas just to see what the reaction would be, and we were shunned away. A couple of my relatives were actually broomed out of the place with brooms, slapped with brooms. Can you believe that cruelty to animals?
It's hard to believe. Well, what about your other cousins, the Amish groundhogs?
Oh my, I feel bad for those Amish groundhogs because they have to work so hard. They don't have any of the finer conveniences. But one good thing they do have. They store some of their carrots and things in containers outside that make it very easy for some of my relatives to grow fat and to eat well. But they still have to work very hard on the Amish farms.
Yeah, so I believe there's a new TV series coming on, the Amish groundhogs coming.
Yes, and this is a menacing thing They are talking about how the Amish actually police their own people. And I'm afraid that this group, I see them carrying firearms. And I'm afraid that they are going to reduce the number of my relatives on their farms. Because, you know, the horses sometimes get their hooves caught in the holes, in the groundhog holes, and they don't like that. And when I saw that TV show, and I saw those 4 men walking across the field, each with a rifle in their arm, I knew that some of my relatives were in trouble.
So the new TV show will be the Amish Rodent Mafia?
It very easily could be, and we're trying to work on ways that we can fight back. But this is a difficult thing, Ron. This is difficult because, you know, we are not allowed to own firearms. There's a law against the rodents owning firearms. So we cannot fight back against these Amish people that are well armed.
Well, rodents probably aren't protected under the Constitution.
They are not. And once again, I told you, we cannot become citizens. You know, there's a height level. Not only do you have to speak English, but you have to be over 1 foot tall before you can actually become a citizen. At least that's what we've been told.
I didn't know that. Well, we're talking with Gus, the second most famous groundhog in Pennsylvania, on Clarion Connection.
Hello? Hello? Hi.
What?
I'm Lisa from Clarion Venango, helpwanted.com.
Who?
Clarion Venango, helpwanted.com.
Never heard of it.
Look, I know some people think of us as entertainment, but lots of people find jobs through us. So in order to be taken seriously, I'm going door to door with my harp.
I'm not home.
Then who's talking?
Are you going to play the harp?
Are you a harp fan?
Nope. Beautiful.
Thank you. Employers find local qualified employees.
Oh.
Post ads in minutes.
Oh.
Start getting resumes right away.
Don't sing.
Clarion Venango, helpwanted.com.
Long name, amazing results.
I thought you never heard of us.
Nope, never.
Do you know what happens when you read to your children? They become better problem solvers. Repetitive nursery rhymes help your child anticipate what comes next. Talking about pictures your child points to helps her focus. Imagine the thinking a child does when you ask, "What do you think will happen next?" What happens when you read to your kids? You help their brains grow. A message from parents as teachers.
For more information, call Clarion County's Promise at 223-1590.
Welcome back to Clarion Connection. I'm Ron Wilshire, and today we're talking with Gus, the second most famous groundhog in Pennsylvania, formerly of lottery fame. Gus, you were at the top of your game with the lottery commercials on TV and print, and even the tickets themselves. And then you were mysteriously let go a couple years ago. Tell us about the dark years. How did you survive? Did you get welfare, unemployment?
Ron, this is very difficult to discuss this with you because, as you know, when you fall from the pedestal, it's a long drop. And you know, it was quite sad for me because no, I could not collect unemployment as a rodent, of course, and I could not get food stamps because they said I would be unable to, use the access card. So it was a long, long drop. And, I survived, though. I survived. I decided to land on my feet. And I took acting lessons because acting is in my blood. And I think there's another life for me out there. So I took about 2 weeks to cry and feel sorry for myself. But then I started back with my lessons. And I think there's a future for me. But it'll take a long time.
Well, let's talk about how did you support Mrs. Gus and your two children?
Mrs. Gus is a strong, strong woman. She really can handle the times, the hard times, the difficult times. And my children also, they went out and foraged for the family. Oh, yes. They would bring back to the burrow, they would bring back a lot of food, and they knew I was depressed. I was very depressed, and I wasn't going out and hunting much myself and bringing back, food to the family. So they actually carried me for a while, and I am indebted to them for that.
How do groundhogs hunt if they're not allowed to have weapons?
Well, what we do, we are really pretty much vegetarians, and we like to go around farmers' fields, and you know what a gleaner is. We go and we glean food in the farmers' fields, from corn to many other types of vegetables, and occasionally we find a mother lode of, corn or carrots that have been left. I think they're left for us, because that's a form of welfare for us groundhogs.
Well, that's always good to know. Now, you went to acting school. And did you get any jobs after the acting school?
Well, I am working with my agent on that, and there's a lot of things, but he wants me to relocate. I love Clarion County. This is my home. My ancestors were here. I plan to raise my family here, and he's talking about New York, Las Vegas, Hollywood. I just don't want to. The money would be good. Don't get me wrong, the money would be good, but I just don't feel I can leave good old Clarion.
Now, we talked about how successful you were with the lottery and everything, and of course there's a proposal now to contract the operation of the lottery, Pennsylvania Lottery, to Camelot, a firm in England. What do you think about that?
Well, Ron, I don't know if you've been following the news, but that has been temporarily halted. We have a new Attorney General who told Mr. Corbett, our governor, you cannot do that. That is against the Constitution. So, oh my, they had to stop this. And now it's in limbo. So I think maybe the lottery will remain in the capable hands of Pennsylvanians. I don't think that the British, with their British accent, will be controlling our lottery.
Well, just suppose they were able to hire this UK firm, who I understand is actually owned by a Canadian teachers' pension fund. How would you consider working for them, since you have the acting and you were successful before?
Well, I probably would go back, but I just really think they will want to go a different route. If it's the British, they'll want a more royal appearance, and I don't think I fit that bill any longer, because I'm down to earth people type person, and I don't speak with a British accent. I think I would have great difficulty coming back to that business again.
Well, I'm sure everybody's sad about that.
Well, I feel bad also, and if there was a groundswell of desire to have me back, to have my picture on TV again, to be a radio broadcaster like yourself, I might give it a second try.
Well, you might be able to get a show on AM 13 or C93.
Well, they have highly qualified announcers there, and I know very well that I could not replace any of them, even though I might like to.
I see. Well, we all have our favorites. Well, if you're not going to work for Camelot, if Camelot is over, so to speak, what kind of jobs will you take? In Clarion County, what kind of jobs are available for rodents in Clarion County?
Well, this is a difficult thing. Most of my relatives, if they're not working at Punxsutawney, they are just out in the fields, sort of living a subsistence life, and some of them are very happy doing that. And so really, when you're driving along the road and you see one of my relatives sitting on the berm, please blow the horn to alert them to your presence, so that we can continue to live in this nice subsistence lifestyle in the ground along the highways.
Well, and you have to watch out for those little carts that they ride on the side of the road.
Oh yes, when we are in the Amish territory, we must really be careful about that, because those horses, the horses do not like us, and they sometimes get a little bit nervous when they see us alongside the road.
Well, that's you have to learn that fast, I guess, if you're a groundhog.
Oh, you have to be quick. Oh, my. You have to be able to scurry into your den very quickly. That's why Punxsutawney Phil is so successful, because he has that skill. The minute they put him down on the ground, he can scurry quickly. They're quite athletic.
Well, do you ever get many requests for some, personal, localized weather forecasts?
Well, when I was big in the lottery, I turned down many requests because I was a star. That was beneath me. Now, I probably would do some of that if I had the opportunity. I will discuss that with my agent.
Sports banquets might be good because they're always looking for motivational speakers. And as far as I know, they don't have too many rodents speaking.
That might work. They'd have to make an adjustment with the podium. They would have to put a very large chair, and I have difficulty climbing up onto chairs. So perhaps they would have to sit me there and, aim the microphone for me. But I could probably do that.
What kind of motivational speech would you deliver as a groundhog?
Oh my. I would talk about what to do when life does not deal you 5 aces. I would tell them, you must make the best of a bad situation, just as I have done. And I think that I would be very, very successful in this effort.
Well, it sounds like you would. So you're keeping your options open as you...
I am keeping my options open. I'm keeping going. I'm attending my classes, my acting classes, and I think that perhaps there will be a future for me. I just have to discover what that is.
Well, your kids are now old enough for college, and are they going to Punxsutawney IUP?
Well, we've discussed that. We have discussed that, and we just might. The tuition is very, very expensive there, especially for rodents, because we don't have a lot of money. Actual dollars. So it's going to be difficult. I hope that I can somehow find a way to send them to school.
And there's probably not too many scholarships available.
There are no scholarships available. No, we have to work hard and send our own children to school. There is no help at all.
Well, what was it like for them going to school in Punxsutawney when the school mascot was a Chuck?
That was difficult. That was very difficult. They didn't want them in the high school. Now that was sad because they were rodents.
So it's sort of the
we are discriminated against, Ron. We are, and we have to fight back, and we try to do the best we possibly can. But there is a rodent discrimination in this country, especially in Clarion County.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yes, it's hard to believe.
How is it evidenced in Clarion County? What types of things have you observed?
Oh my! People set traps. People set traps for rodents, and sometimes we get ensnared. Now I know we are cute, we are handsome, and they don't want to snare us, but that's by mistake, and so there is definitely a discrimination here.
Do other rodents, non-groundhogs, give you problems?
Oh yes, they resent us. They resent our popularity, and so that is a problem. We try to stay away from the riffraff of the rodent community.
And you're not like them.
Oh, no. I'm above them.
So, so you don't have any plans to try to get back in the lottery?
No, I don't. But what I would like to ask you a big favor, since you are a big radio figure. I would like more opportunities to speak with you and your audience, because there might be people out there with influence. Maybe store owners that would like to use my services. And you may tell them to contact me through this radio station, and I will be able to maybe represent them.
So the word is out there that Gus is available?
Gus is available.
Gus still wants to work, has life in him. Welcome, and thank you for joining us on Clarion Connection again. Gus, the second most famous groundhog in Pennsylvania.
Back into the scene with us here. I wonder if thank goodness you got me today instead of the ferret, because that may have been a little bit weird.
It would have been weird, yes, definitely.
but that goes to show you that C93 employs all kinds of people.
They are equal opportunity, yes.
Equal rodent employers.